The bus station in Phoenix was almost deserted that night. Fluorescent lights buzzed above rows of empty benches, casting long shadows across the cracked tile floor. Ethan Miller leaned against his worn duffel bag, checking his phone for the third time. Clara Hay sat beside him, yawning, her nursing textbooks piled on her lap. Their bus had been canceled, leaving them stranded until morning. That's when they noticed her. A girl in a dark hoodie stood near the vending machines, clutching a backpack so tightly it looked like part of her body. She didn't approach at first, just watched them with sharp, unblinking eyes. Finally, she stepped closer. "Do you have a car?" Her voice was soft, but something in her tone made Clara stiffen. Ethan hesitated. "Yeah. Why?" She adjusted her hood, hiding her face. "I need a ride. Just out of town. That's all." Clara looked at Ethan uneasily, but he shrugged. She seemed harmless enough, thin, quiet, barely older than them. Against their better judgment, they agreed. Minutes later, the three of them slipped into Ethan's old sedan, the engine rumbling to life. Clara sat in the passenger seat, Ethan at the wheel, and the hooded girl, Julia Vance, slid silently into the back. As they pulled away from the station, the desert night swallowed them whole. Neither Ethan nor Clara knew that letting her into their car had already sealed their fate. Julia lived her life behind a screen. Online, she was confident. Online, she had purpose. That's where she met Noah, a 16-year-old boy who poured out his troubles to her, abuse at home, fear of a stepfather, nights he wanted to run away. To Julia, it was destiny. She gave herself a new identity, the guardian. In her notebooks, she sketched out plans. Supplies, escape routes, weapons. One phrase appeared again and again: rescue at all costs. Her small apartment became a staging ground. A knife tucked into her backpack, duct tape, gloves, rations. She convinced herself she was chosen. If Noah was to be saved, it had to be her. But Julia had no car, no money, no plan beyond her determination. And that's why she stood at the bus station that night, waiting for someone to take her closer to the mission. The car hummed quietly as it sped down the empty highway. Desert stretched endlessly outside, shadows swallowing the horizon. Clara tried to break the silence. "So, where are you headed?" Julia's answer was clipped. "Out of town." Ethan glanced into the rear view. Her hood shadowed her face, but her eyes glinted with intensity. He tried to lighten the mood. "You from Phoenix?" Her reply was sharp. "Does it matter?" The silence grew heavier. Julia's hand brushed the zipper of her backpack, where the knife waited. Minutes later, she spoke again, her voice low. "Pull over. I need some air." Ethan hesitated. Clara frowned. "Here? We're in the middle of nowhere." "I said I need air." Something in her tone left no room for refusal. Ethan flicked on the turn signal and eased onto a dirt road. The car slowed to a stop. Inside, the tension snapped taut. The dome light glowed faintly above. Ethan turned halfway in his seat. "You okay back there?" Julia leaned forward, her hood slipping. Her hand slid from the backpack. The knife glinted under the yellow light. Clara gasped. "Ethan!" The car erupted in chaos. Julia lunged, the blade flashing. Ethan grabbed her wrist, straining against her strength, but space was too tight. Clara cried out, clawing at Julia's sleeve. The knife slashed again and again. Ethan groaned, his strength fading as blood soaked his shirt. Clara's scream turned into a sob, then silence. And then it was over. Ethan slumped against the wheel. Clara collapsed sideways, her face pressed against the window. Julia sat back, her breathing steady. Her voice whispered into the quiet. 2 was enough. Any more, and it would have been a massacre. She shoved Ethan's body aside, climbed into the driver's seat, and drove into the night. The desert blurred past as Julia sped down the highway. Her grip on the wheel was steady, her heartbeat already calming. She glanced at the rearview mirror once. Ethan slumped sideways. Clara's still form pressed against the glass. Their silence was complete. Julia whispered, "They would have ruined everything." At a gas station, she scrubbed her hands in the bathroom sink until the water ran clear. She cut away bloodied seat belts with scissors from her bag. Then she drove again, avoiding highways, sticking to back roads. Every mile carried her closer to Noah. In her mind, she pictured his gratitude, his relief. But deep down, another thought lingered, quiet, dangerous, undeniable. 2 was enough. But what if there are more? Julia didn't resist when police knocked on her motel door. She opened it calmly, cuffs snapping around her wrists. In the interrogation room, detectives pressed her. Why did you kill them? Her answer was chilling. I didn't want to, but I couldn't take chances. She spoke of Noah, of being the guardian, of her mission. She described Ethan and Clara not as victims, but as obstacles. The detective stared, unsettled. You murdered 2 innocent people over a fantasy. Julia's voice never wavered. It wasn't a fantasy. It was a promise. And I don't break promises. Her calmness chilled them more than any outburst could. Investigators tore through Julia's apartment. The laptop was a goldmine. Posts under the alias The Guardian. Rants about missions and extractions. Notes about weapons and routes. Her notebook repeated the mantra, rescue at all costs. Chat logs revealed her obsession with Noah, her constant promise. I'll come for you. I'll save you. Worse was the unsent draft label Phase 2. It detailed plans to confront Noah's stepfather and neutralize anyone who resisted. Ethan and Clara weren't her only victims. They were just the beginning. The courtroom was tense. Julia entered in chains, her face blank. Families of Ethan and Clara filled the gallery, their grief raw. The prosecutor's voice thundered. This wasn't madness. This was murder. She planned it, prepared for it, and she would have done it again. The defense argued mental illness, but Julia sat motionless, showing no remorse. When asked to speak, her words froze the room. I didn't want to hurt them, but I had to. The jury returned quickly, guilty on all counts. The judge's gavel fell with finality. Life in prison without parole, plus 50 years. Julia didn't flinch. Justice was served, but closure never came. Ethan's family remembered his laughter in the garage, the smell of engine grease on his hands. Clara's classmates remembered her dream of becoming a nurse, her notebooks filled with hope. The empty seats at their tables became permanent reminders of what was lost. In prison, Julia wrote in new notebooks, still calling herself the Guardian. She showed no regret. Reporters dissected her case, warning of online obsessions turning deadly. For the families, it wasn't headlines, it was reality. Ethan and Clara lived on in memory, while Julia faded into the shadows of a prison cell, her mission forever unfinished.